Hello everyone, my name is Jordan, also known as Scraps, and I know if it's been a while, but I've been super busy. Anyways, I wanted to share like a conceptual idea. I think I'll finalize this when I have time to finalize this idea, but probably not. Anyways, I wanted to talk about how this can be accomplished. It's basically a drum kit and a synth layered. This usually happens when you hear like a huge kick and then like followed by a very loud like synth behind it, but that initial kick is actually part of the sound. It's not really divided in two separate tracks. It's actually just combined in an old school way of combining two tracks together to create one. This is just some in Raggstep that isn't talked about a lot, but I think you guys can use it. So I'm going to show you pretty much how to make this. Easy as pie. So instead of like creating something like totally new, I'm just gonna go off to the side here. So I usually like to use combinators to hold all my instruments and effects. It saves a shit ton on CPU and GPU. If your computer doesn't have a lot of cores like mine, it's very handy. The first thing we're gonna plug into this device, and you can do this either two ways. You can either throw in a line 6.2 mixer if you like to work with more compact instruments, or if you want to take it all the way to the grand scale, you can do this with a mixer 14.2, which is like the old school mixer that everyone used. Anyways, for now we're gonna use a line 6.2 found in utilities. I'm going to first create my Thor, because the Thor is usually what makes this sound pop. Okay, this is very critical, and I'm also going to dive into this lesson a little later, but for now we're going to work with FM synthesis. And frequency modulated synthesis borrows other waveforms from like I don't know, a square and a saw. We combine those two waveforms to modulate the first waveform to create something new. And like pretty much all dubstep, all trap, all Raggstep, and pretty much all like the new buzzing sounds that you hear are from FM synthesis. That, or it's just a straight raw Moog synth. Anyways, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up my first and second oscillators. My second and third, I'm sorry. I'm going to just make them be analog. I'm going to go down to the sources. I'm going to go down to my oscillator 2. And I'm going to route that to be 84 for the first oscillator. FM. So oscillator 1, frequency, or FM. Then, so right now the sound sounds like this. It's kind of there, but not really. So the second thing we want to do is go to oscillator 3. We're also going to set, instead of like 84 to be a really high amount, we're going to set this to like 60. Oscillator 1 FM again. Not very bright. Well, that's because like the second oscillator needs to be a square, and the PW needs to be set to 2. This will open up our width range to a very small narrow. So instead of like a very wide synth, we're just gonna make a very narrow type of sound. So that way, well, if you need to EQ it for your song, you can do it quickly without messing around with too many controls. Okay, so now it sounds like this. More hollow, more filled out. The third thing we need to do is attach a filter envelope, or filter envelope if you want. I'm going to basically bring down my sustain and almost my release. The attack and decay really set the sound apart from everything else. So I'm going to set my filter envelope to 55. And I'm also going to set it to my oscillator 1 FM. Now let's have a listen to where we are before we adjust any of the attack or decay. It's interesting, but it's still pretty bland. So what I'm going to do is mess with the attack and decay. So let's see what happens. I'm sorry, did I say decay? I really meant sustain. Sustain actually lets the, after you've done playing the note, it lingers afterwards, and so you want that lingering to last much longer. So you can see how the attack and the sustain really affect the sound. I'm only going to set my attack to not even that much, probably to 29.8. Yeah, so the next notch down. And basically my sustain and release are, decay and release are all the way at the end. So we have this kind of short stab. I'm gonna turn on my sustain just cause, and the filter frequency needs to be a state variable. I'm gonna set my frequency all the way down to probably about 87. I'm gonna set it to a high pass. Just turn on the chorus. So it's pretty cool. Next, the second thing we need to do, well, you could widen it. And to really widen the synth, all you really need is the Treetops preset that's found in the RV 7000 Advanced Reverb presets. I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute once my computer starts working. Thank you. Well, it's working, obviously, but I don't know, I just get way too impatient because a lot of my ideas fall through the cracks. I'm going to set my decay to 20, my high EQ to -38, and my dry wet to 23. I'm not going to compress this because I just want this to be wider. So I'm going to set my time to, I'm going to actually set it all the way down. So I'm going to set my sync off. So it's at 1 millisecond. Key pitch. Let's do 8 for the right channel offset. Force the drive pretty much a lot, so that way we can hear a lot more. Now if you feel like your sound is still like a little bit too much, you can always turn down the dry wet to probably about 7. It's a lot less and it saves. The next instrument we're going to create is a Kong. Now Kong is just a MPC drum kit, so to see, and I'm just gonna load up. I loaded up a Nano Rex, an NN Nano, so that way you can import just wave files, and I'm gonna look for a pretty beefy drum. Something that can play along with this. multi-kick is pretty plentiful. So now that I have my kick, all you need to do is actually hit a note. Mine happens to be C2 for the drum kick and the snare at the same time. But you really want this drum to stand out. So I'm going to set a filter and a compressor. So the filter frequency, I'm just going to go down to 18, set it to a high pass. For my compressor, I'm going to leave the amounts as is, except turn up the gain to probably about 42 or 44. Still not all the way there, so we're going to basically just push a pulverizer on it, push up the squash, and maximize it. Like, I'm not going to add any saturation or anything to it, just because I think it would muddy up the sound. Set the release to auto, turn off limiter, soft clip on, amount 127. And for our drum 3, or you can choose drum 2, it's just, I'm using an Akai MPK Mini, so it skips a note, because I like to play half steps. Set it to an NN Ano, and choose like a snare sound. I like the real chunky claps. Unfortunately, as you can hear, that has like way too much white noise, so I'm gonna turn on a filter. I set it to high pass. That's at, I don't know, 50. So you can't hear it. So that usually means that the clap we're working with has a lot of white noise. You want 0 white noise when working with a snare. That works. Like I said, turn on a filter. Even overdrive might work. It gives it a different texture than what I'm looking for, so I'm just gonna turn that back to a compressor and turn up the gain. The cool thing about this synth that we've created together is that you can play it staccato, or you can play it with like legato. So staccato is where you just lightly tap the keys. Legato, I think, is when you hold down the keys. So it depends on how you really want to work the synth and the drums. If you do perfect this idea, you can actually probably get something like Skrox's Trying It Out Alvin remix. No, I think it's like Neon remix. I'm not sure. Anyways, that drop is usually a kick followed by the sound, or followed by the reverberating FM synth. So hope you guys check out these tutorials a lot more, because, well, in the later future I'm going to be posting a lot more in-depth techniques, kind of like overdrive MIDI with master and slave. I figured out how to overwrite and create very crazy patterns with just random techniques. So I'll check you guys out later. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys get lots of work, lots of money, lots of safety stuff. I don't know, condoms. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you guys have a chill afternoon, a chill day, and not too much trouble or obstacles or good things. No, I want you to have all the good things in the world. Anyways, I'm a little flummoxed because I haven't had that many hours of sleep. Anyways, take chill, rest easy, and love you always. Peace.